Hi everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a few texture files in Photoshop that we'll just make from scratch. We won't actually be editing any pre-existing images, we'll just be generating a couple of interesting looking effects. One will look like lava, the other one will look kind of just like I'm going to call it an energy warp, just a bunch of like sort of lines shooting out from a central point. So first I'll show you how to do the lava texture. And both of these, by the way, are going to involve using a lot of filters. So you'll see a few new filters that you haven't seen before, probably. Let's just get started with the lava one. I'm going to create a new file. And I'll call it lava texture. I'm going to make it a 1000 by 1000 pixel rectangle, square. It is a square rectangle. And then I'm going to start by rendering some clouds. Before I do that, I'm going to make sure my colors are set to black and white. And then rendering clouds just sort of randomly generates some like kind of noise, like just a bunch of visual stuff that looks like clouds. So that's under filter, render, clouds. It just kind of randomly generates this. It's not the same every time. And then after this, I want to sort of just distort it a bunch. So I'm actually going to do filter, render, different clouds. And you can see it starts to sort of add these like deeper darks and these lighter lights. So it's somehow bringing out, so it's somehow making the differences more extreme. I'm gonna do that again. Alright, so now you've got some really bright brights and you've got some really dark darks. It kind of looks more like there's streaks of things, which is good because it's supposed to look like streaks of lava sort of running over like darker spots where there isn't any lava. So I think this should be good. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy. So just right click on this layer, duplicate it. I mean, it shouldn't be called background if you're naming your layers correctly, but there's only 2 layers, I'm not going to worry about it. So just know that there's a copy layer and an original layer. I'm working with the copy layer right now, and with the copy layer, I'm going to I'm going to emboss it. Filter, stylize, emboss. And what this is going to do is kind of add like a sort of depth to it, like 3-dimensional, so things will pop out or sink in. And it kind of looks like rocks. I'm turning the amount all the way up to 500%, leaving the height at 3 pixels, and angle at 135. If you don't have those settings, you don't necessarily have to copy them exactly. You can experiment with things, but it should pretty much look like this. I recommend you just use the settings that I already have here, but it should pretty much kind of look like a surface of a rock. And once you have the settings, click OK. And then we're going to add another filter, the plastic wrap filter. Filter, gallery. Go to the filter gallery. And once that loads, under artistic, it's the top tab, choose plastic wrap. And set the highlight strength to pretty high. I'm going with 15, and then detail medium high and smoothness in the middle. I have 15, 9, and 7 for my settings. And this just gives it sort of a shiny texture, and that's gonna help it kind of look like liquid flowing lava. Still in the copy layer, change the blend mode of this layer to overlay. Make sure the layer is selected here in your layers palette. Click overlay. So now you can see it's starting to blend that original background layer together with the with that copy layer. Still doesn't look much like lava mostly because of the color. So go back to the original layer, the bottom layer in my case. It should be on the bottom in the blend. Go to image, adjustments, color balance, and we're going to shift all of the colors to super red and super yellow. So there's these different tones, so like shadows or dark tones. We want all the dark tones to either be red or yellow. We've got mid-tones, those are in the middle. Lots of red, lots of yellow. Highlights, you guessed it, lots of red and decent amount of yellow. Actually, maybe don't turn it up all the way. It gets like a little bit too, looks almost kind of like cartoonish. Maybe dial the yellow back a little bit, and just so you have looks like it's glowing, and that should be good. And at that point, you're all done. You have lava. There's an optional thing you can try. It can make it a little bit shinier and smoother. Decide if you like this or not. You just apply go back to the filter gallery and apply the plastic wrap filter again, and it looks horrifying at first. Back off the highlight strength a lot though. I back it all the way down to like 4. And I mean, it looks a little shinier. If you want to apply that, you can apply it. If you don't, it still looks like lava. So that's making a lava texture. So next I'm going to show you how to do sort of energy warp looking texture. And that one, we'll create another new file. I'll stick with 1000 by 1000. Call this energy warp. Again, make sure the color palette is black and white. It is. Render clouds again, so you're noticing a pattern. We're starting these by rendering clouds. Filter, render, clouds. And then we're just kind of using filters to modify these randomly generated clouds. I'm going to do difference clouds again, so repeat a few times. So filter, render, difference clouds, and I'm going to actually repeat this exactly 4 times. So I did that once. Filter. You'll see that you can actually, anytime you want to repeat your previous filter, you can do that by clicking here, the top option, or Alt Control F. So I'm just going to Alt Control F 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. And so, alright, from this point, I'm going to apply a new filter. Filter, pixelate, color halftone. I'm going to set my radius to 4 pixels and set every channel to 90 degrees. That pixelates this image. Next, I'm going to add a sort of radial sort of looking thing, so it looks like there's lines coming out from the center. So I'm going to click filter, distort, polar coordinates. I'm going to say rectangular to polar. So all that pixelation is going to be shifted, so all those dots are now aligned sort of in a circle. Alright, so you're kind of starting to see it looks kind of like a twisty warp thing. I'm going to apply yet another filter. Filter, blur, radial blur, set the amount to 100. The blur method set to zoom. Set the quality to good. Apply. And then I'll Control Alt F again to apply it one more time, and just kind of adds a little bit more of that blur. So it's mostly done here. We just need to add some color to it. So I'm going to do that adjustment again. Image, adjustment. This time I'll do hue saturation though. So this is similar to what you've done before. You've done hue saturation adjustments. The difference is if you go through the image menu, these are destructive changes. They actually change the pixels that are on the screen rather than apply something over the top that is non-destructive. Like, you know, when you use the method that we've used before, an adjustment layer, it's blending another layer that creates the adjustment. This is directly affecting the pixels that you're working with. It's just two different ways of doing things. You know, if there's different reasons to choose one or the other, if you're doing this sort of method, it's harder to sort of undo your work. But you do end up with like fewer layers to manage. So anyway, moving forward, I'm just going to set a color. I'll just choose colorize, and I think I'll go with green, a little bit more saturated. And if you want, you can try this and see how you like it. Duplicate the layer, and then for the duplicate, turn it into an overlay, and it'll have the effect of sort of accenting the you know, like the bright, it'll make the bright things brighter and the dark things darker. So if you want that, you can add that. You don't have to add that though. And that's all there is. You've got an energy warp texture.